We have a quorum. So the first order of business is approval of the minutes from October 22nd meeting, which I did send out. If there's any corrections, additions, deletions, if not, I did entertain a motion to.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as submitted. Second.
Moved by Greg and seconded by Tom. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, is all in favor of approving minutes, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Before we get to the agenda, I just want to make a quick announcement and introduce two people. In the back of the room, who I suspect you can't quite see, is Betsy Levinson, who has been nominated to become a member of the Economic Vitality Committee and will be approved at the next select board meeting, I suspect. So welcome, we're glad you're here visiting. And online is Lindsay Wolf. Lindsay is a liaison from the West Concord Advisory Committee. So
Good.
hello, Lindsay, and would you like to say a couple words after you unmute yourself? There you go.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Lindsay. I joined the West Concord Advisory Committee at the end of the spring, and I have officially become the liaison to the Economic Vitality Committee. So I'm going to start joining some meetings, taking a look at your minutes so that I can better understand the work that you're doing and look for opportunities for our committees to partner together and do good work. I've been a West Concord resident for about 3 years. I moved here from Los Angeles in 2022, the end of 2022, and live here with my husband and 2 children who attend Thoreau Elementary School. So I'm excited to get to know you all. Feel free to reach out if you ever want to discuss anything that our committee is doing.
Thank you very much, and we're glad to have you as a liaison. Thanks a lot. So the next item on the agenda is advancing the beer garden zoning changes. I met with the town planner, as I said I would. And I think she thinks it's a good idea to go ahead and do that. The tricky part is not just sort of inserting the word beer garden into the zoning bylaws 5.4.5, I think. But writing the if there are the need for regulations around it, sizing, stuff like that. So I'm continuing to work with her and see if that's something we can get done relatively quickly, because the warrant, I think, will open the first of next month, and we're already this month put a little shot, Thanksgiving coming up next week. So if we can get that kind of drafted, then I'll bring it back to the committee for us to do, and then we go forward. The planning committee, as I think Mimi pretty well indicated, is kind of flat out, so I doubt whether we're gonna get much attention from the planning committee, so we'll just have to see how that goes. And it may be the case that we decide that we won't try to push it for the spring annual meeting. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a fall annual meeting. Special town meeting next fall, probably around the MCI issues. So that would give us a chance to do that if it seems impractical to get it done for this.
One approach we might want to think about is sort of similar to how we did food trucks, where it was limited. So right now the food truck ordinance said you can only have 2 at any site. Anything more than that has to go to the select board. As it is for a beer garden, pretty much it all has to go to the select board. So we could kind of just write in, and so that what happened with the beer garden, with the food trucks, it had to be approved by the select board, and it kind of deferred that those regulations got set up separately and was approved by the select board. So that might be a way of,
Wouldn't you then have to go back again?
no, because it's not necessarily part of a zoning code. So the zoning code can basically delegate the authority to the select board as part of their licensing. And it gives a little wiggle room, so it might say anything over, a very modest amount,
Yeah.
defer to them.
Very well, wow.
Yeah, and I also like the idea of expanding don't you call it a beer garden, but really it's a public kind of event, sort of, I forget the term you use, but I like that notion of sort of, so it's not necessarily that model. It could be many of other creative things that bring people together in the community to an event and a space where we can do something better. It would be performances, there could be a lot of different things that go on. And it, you know, which there would be refreshments served, stuff like that, so. But I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, good. I'm also wondering if you've got, if the tavern goes ahead and gets a bar built out
Right,
and gets an actual liquor license. If they apply or to do a beer garden, is it different then?
Right, because the state regulations, there then is sort of like, almost like a patio is how it's treated, so it's got different regulations, so it's similar like when Salt Fox wanted to do it.
right,
Massachusetts regulations are ridiculously complicated with the different types of liquor license. There's a catering license, there's a farm brewer license, there's a other manufacturer, there's the restaurant one, so it kind of gets tricky if it's on your own property.
Yeah, my point is, if they do that, then they won't need
They would
to have
no
a
longer
zoning
be a-
change, so who then is our client?
So it could be other places, so it could be the Guitar Museum once they get built out, it could be, I know West Concord was talking about sort of doing like an Eve of Patriots Day activity, and for them to have a beer garden. There's not provisions for that, so potentially, maybe Concord wanna do it on Monument Square as part of another event, you know, who knows?
umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
they're-
the umbrella.
Well, Umbrella's got they do those things, they just do them right out of their front lawn.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they have to do it as a ticketed event and it's not technically a beer garden. It's
Yeah.
not like inviting the general public.
Okay. All right,
And that is a stipulation, it has to be open to the public.
That's my
That's
understanding.
what-
That's the other question is whether we need to
Yeah.
create definitions of.
that's, I think Elizabeth's main concern was making sure that everything defined. So the zoning change itself is fairly straightforward and easy, it's almost like, as you mentioned, inserted.
Mm.
But then you have to go through all of the definitions.
Mhm.
So press ahead, so we'll see what happens. The next item on the agenda, this is an item that's before the CPC, and that is the Assabet River Bridge. I suspect everybody knows about it, behind the old Welch's plant. And I've been working on this for quite a long time, I think it was, and Elizabeth is now heading it up, but they have an application before the CPC. And I think that the completion of that bridge could be a positive thing for economic vitality, particularly in the West Concord area. So my ask is to authorize the chair to write to the CPC on behalf of our committee supporting the Assabet River Bridge request. That's what I got.
I would like to move that, yes.
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
okay, so moved by Tom, second by Greg. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye. Good, thank you very much. Any opposed? All right, thank you. I will draft that letter on behalf of the committee and get it to the chair of the CP.
That little video that that was fantastic.
Interact.
Everybody said, this is unbelievable.
Right,
Yeah, the consultants did an amazing job on that.
Actually, I have a comment or question entirely unrelated, but I still have not taken my oath of office. I just realized that today. I'm assuming it's appropriate for me to attend and speak and not vote. Is that correct?
that's correct. You can be here, but you can't vote.
Fantastic. I'll mute myself again.
Yeah, I hope you'll get into the townhouse and try to get that done over the course of the next couple of weeks or so. Thanks for letting us know, Adam.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is our proposed panel presentation and update. I don't know who's taking the lead on that. but
I will.
Beth, all right, you're up.
So Stuart and I met with Mimi and Lita from the West Concord Cultural District, from the Concord Center Cultural District, and Zena Noe, who is a consultant working with them on their strategic plan. And the gist of our conversation to summarize is we all think it's a great idea that we have a lot of joint overlap, a lot of joint purposes. They're still getting their ducks in a row a little bit, so they are very happy to support, to be at a meeting, to review what we come up with for goals. We sort of all felt really strongly that when we go forward into a forum, we should set ourselves some metrics ahead of time, what we want to get out, so that we have a clear path, what we're doing during the meeting, what we're asking the constituents for, and how we're going to evaluate those metrics, and then what the next steps are. But they're really interested because they're just finishing their strategic plan now, and a lot of it does recognize beer gardens, festivals, Concord Center festivals, and what more could happen. So they're really interested in co-working this with us, or being together with us and inviting all of our respective constituents to a bigger meeting. And that we left it that we would come here, Mimi and I would come here, and then work on developing a list of goals and metrics, share that with them. And Tui is now back from the Aegean Sea or wherever he was sailing around. And then Lita will be our liaison back to the committee, and facilitate promoting it, helping us solidify a date and so forth.
Right. So, Tom, do you have anything to add?
I was not able to attend, I got messed up on my calendar, so Beth is, and Mimi and Stuart are basically taking care of it, so.
Well, there's some new information since we had our meeting,
Okay.
and I haven't had a chance to chat with Beth about this. And Stuart probably has, about what I'm gonna talk about from the Arlington perspective. The Mass Cultural Council is changing their guidelines on how cultural districts are organized. So this program's been going on for quite a few years now, with designating a specific geographic area where there's a cluster of existing cultural assets. And the idea is by kind of coordinating those players in the neighborhood to advance economic vitality. And when the program was first started, there was no funding connected with it. Concord's got 2 districts, and since COVID, but previously communities could apply for funding or for both technical expertise, and it was sort of a clear guidelines, but there was a lot of variability about how districts went forward. And then during COVID, they basically were giving out money just as kind of looking how to keep everything going, and everybody got $15,000 a year for pretty minor work plans. So spend the money, tell us how you did that. Well, they've just released, they had sent it out very quietly on Friday and had a meeting on Tuesday morning and said, these are the new rules. And for some communities, it's going to be a dramatic difference. For Concord, it's actually a notable difference. And some of these requirements are that each district needs at least a quarter time, a 0.25 FTE town staff person associated with them, and they have to show that their job description is associated with it. They need a dedicated town committee and they are beefing up of like who the constituents need to be. So somebody from planning or economic development, from the Historic Districts Commission, from the CPC, a lot of integration. They're wanting much more detailed work plans and to really show how it's involved in terms of road planning and transportation and all that sort of thing. They are also looking for, I'm trying to think of like, a lot of it's really, it is kind of things that Concord's already doing, but not with that framework. So the MCC got a lot of negative feedback on Monday, and they're saying that they're going to regroup. I just got an email from them again saying they're not gonna send out anything till tomorrow, but it sounds like they might do some tweaks, but there's not gonna be a major overhaul. So it's kind of a timely moment for Concord to kind of think like, well, what does it mean for us to have cultural districts? How committed are we to the model? What ways, because in some ways these guidelines that Mass Cultural Council is putting forward are best practices. Like this is the dream program if we want to do it, but it does mean kind of recommitting to this particular model, which might or might not be appropriate for this community. Like there's many ways to skin a cat, but this is like the ideal, most effective way. But I think we do need to kind of revisit a little bit. So this might be an interesting time for this forum if we are thinking about this overlap of arts and culture and creative economy. Stuart, did you attend the meeting on Tuesday?
I didn't. I'm actually meeting with the team on December 2nd to go over it. And I mean, I just add that it makes all of their recommendations make sense to me. It's how we've structured it in Arlington for years now, and it's necessary in some of the smaller districts because they just don't have the town support and they don't have enough kind of person power. And so it does take a commitment, a base commitment. It makes all the sense in the world to me that, I mean, the whole program was always intended to drive economic development and be part of planning. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me for the cultural district managing partnership and Concord Center to be so aligned with the cultural council because their goals are very different. Um, the cultural councils intend to distribute funds to artists, right? But cultural districts are about development and planning. So it makes a lot of sense that this committee should be more closely aligned with the management of a cultural district. It's really for promotion, it's for driving tourism, it's for generating activity for businesses and cultural institutions. That's the purpose of the cultural district program. So I think we all left that meeting at the visitor center believing that the cultural district's goals were more closely aligned with EVC's kind of raison d'etre. So
Yeah, I saw the notice come in yesterday from MCC and there it's lengthy. And it is quite a substantial investment on the path of the community. So I agree with Mimi that it's not a bad time to come up with a forum and really get some constituent feedback because we could use that both for the purposes we originally established and for saying, does the community want the administration to move forward on enacting these changes and continue to have a district, and forward? So I'd leave that to you, Mike. I mean, I still think it's worth having a forum, to sort of generate some feedback from the community.
Beth, does us having this district help in your work in any way?
It does very much. Having an organized cultural district absolutely gives tourists another reason to come here, especially because typically, and Stuart sort of spoke to this, is districts create programming. Programming is sustainable, it is repeatable, and that makes us more of a destination for arts and culture.
I'm going to ask a dumb question. What does programming mean in this context?
So programming means, do they have, so Porch Fest is a program that was created by the West Concord Cultural District. It certainly drives locals. It does definitely bring people from neighboring towns. Those types of programs that are sponsored by the cultural district generate economic vitality. They generate revenue, they encourage people to shop, dine, etc.
And forgive me for asking one more potentially ignorant question. As a newcomer, how would Porch Fest be different if the cultural district didn't exist?
There's no one to organize it. There's no funding for it. The 15,000, while meager, certainly helps get the word out, advertising, promotion, and the committee itself does an enormous amount of legwork. So if there were no cultural district, there'd be no reason for those people necessarily to get together.
Yeah, and
Thank
the
you.
fact that that's a kind of part of the town, that means it's underneath the town's insurance, so that they're able to kind of engage the police department, and recreation can support it, and using town facilities. There's a kind of ways in which it's sort of under the town umbrella and support.
Agreed.
So what's our path forward?
I've been kind of alerted, I see Mary has joined the meeting, she's the liaison to the two cultural districts. So right now, we're kind of waiting to see, like, are there gonna be any changes from what got sent forward, and to understand really what the timeline is. Typically, at least for this, it might be meaningful for this year in terms of we're not quite sure how fast are they gonna implement it. It seemed like snap to, like as fast as January, it'd be longer. So I think if we were thinking about this forum, kind of, I think we were thinking like sometime early in the new year is kind of appropriate timing for, we'll have some clarity by then and can have a more robust
So
conversation.
around the question, should we organize to conform to,
It's sort of like, what's the value of a cultural district? What's the, how meaningful is it to follow this particular model from the MCC? We could maybe potentially look at what are some of what's our model from before and our model now? There's a bunch of different angles we could do, or we could just kind of look more broadly in terms of like, where's the overlap between economic development, economic vitality and arts and culture? And really, I think some people still don't quite understand what that means, so we could even go that direction.
I mean, is an alternative that Concord would just withdraw from the state thing and just do it on their own? I don't think it's advisable, but is that in the deck, of cards that?
sure?
Yeah.
So previously I worked in Somerville, and we were one of the communities who were kind of piloting of like doing this place-based programming. And then when the designation of districts came up, we decided to not be designated, because at the time, it was a lot of paperwork for no funding. And now they're like, it's a lot of paperwork and maybe we'll give you funding, we don't know, like, it's not tied to money. It's just
Oh,
tied
it's
to. like-
not,
Sorry?
it's not tied to money?
No, it's tied to this designation, which could be money, but not necessarily. And they start talking about like, oh, the branding connected to it. I think early on there was some technical expertise that you could get from the MCC. They haven't really been offering that very much. So that's part of the pushback with the MCC is sort of like, these guidelines, by following these guidelines, it is a little bit like following a recipe, which can be helpful. Concord kind of already has a good recipe that's working, so do we want to, we were making muffins, now they're like, we want you to make a cake, and we're like, well, do we want to make a cake? And that feels like the little thing that we maybe want to discuss.
Maybe another thought to bring to this is that it's sort of the opposite of like a historical preservation district area. I mean, for some of us who are in the business of contemporary art and culture, like the Umbrella, right? This kind of program lends itself to placemaking and generating, public art, right? Public engagement, community engagement, it's a carrot to get businesses and nonprofit organizations and educational organizations and hospitality businesses working together in a way that, say, again, the kind of historical district model doesn't. I mean, that's still, and it might be the appeal for Concord Center, the historical treasure, assets. But there's, as we've been discussing for some time now, there's much less sort of support in Concord Center for other kinds of business and economic activity and cultural activity. So I agree that we might need to poll our neighbors. I mean, if the reaction to the 250 was any indication, there are a lot of people here who don't want a lot of vitality and exciting things going on in Concord Center. So we should consider that. If I will say, I mean, for the past several years, there has been funding attached to to my cultural district, and it's been automatic and it's been really easy. It's been turnkey, and that funding has been very helpful in sort of catalyzing activity in public art, in murals, and performance, and placemaking, in Arlington 250 events. So it's just a kind of another war chest for kind of, and we've been able to also invest in some infrastructural things like electrifying certain outdoor performance spaces once we expanded our busking program and created more performance opportunities. Buying generators and portable stages and things that will help activate a space. Those are things that only, like Beth said, I mean, a random group of volunteers isn't going to come up with a porch fest on their own.
Mary, did you have your hand up?
I do. Wow, I find this concerning, but I also find it very confusing. I think that in the town of Concord, we've got very dedicated volunteers. They are town committee, so they get support. But I think there's only, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, there's $30,000 that we get from the Mass Cultural Council, right? So we're only talking about $30,000 plus maybe the brand, which we have the sign on the side of the road that says it's a cultural council. But we're kind of a town that has a very active and dedicated volunteer base. The town supports a lot of these committees in town with, all the postings and all of the minutia we have to do in order to comply with open meeting law. So to me, as far as what I know so far, and like I said, I'm still confused, is I think there's only $30,000 at risk here if we want to just look at the money. And I'm hoping that the people still stay committed and as creative as they are to make what's happening, including the programming, continue. Having said all that, I came in a little late, and it sounds like, are you considering a forum with the public to get their reactions to this or their feedback, or because
No.
okay, that might be premature because it sounds like I'm confused about what are the choices that we have in front of us.
Mary, this was an agenda item we had. We were trying to plan our, let's call it our annual public forum, like the one we did on economic development.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the topics for that forum was somehow wrapping our arms around the cultural community in addition to the business community, trying to see if we could get a panel discussion around the cultural committees and cultural activities impact on economic development. So that was
Okay, that's abstract enough that I think we can avoid a lot of the things that are in flux around the mass culture. That's my opinion.
Yeah. All right, so
If I can just, I'm so sorry, just as a retailer, I always do kind of salary wage math. And I understand correctly, for us to retain this, we need to have 2.5 full-time equivalent employees dedicated to the cultural district.
No, it would
No.
be 1 half-time. So each district would need a quarter-time person. So potentially you could just consider
Okay.
a lot of things that I'm doing that I'm already working in these districts. But we just kind of need to, they're basically requiring it to be framed and named in that way. So it ends up being kind of they basically are wanting us to like just align with their model in a more explicit way.
So it's still a net gain in money. Okay, thank you.
Did they give a reason why? Oh,
go ahead.
did they give why have they decided to do this? Did they start with a preamble? Here's why we think we need to make this more explicit.
So they've been working on this for about a year, changing their regulations, so they're looking at how can they be more effective in their grant making. And the program had gotten kind of loose. There's been a lot of districts. I think there's now 58 in the state. And the model had gotten kind of unclear. It was a little surprising of like they had done all this work of gathering input and then they just kind of burbled out with the regulations and like, here you go. So that's a little bit where everybody's coming back like, hold on, where's this coming from? But they have been working on this for a while. They have just lost their CEO, so I think they're a little ham-fisted at the moment too of unclear on how they're going forward.
One question on their regulations, like you said, that they were producing, what's it pertaining to? What is it regulating?
It's regulating the designation of a cultural district is through the state.
Yeah.
So Concord had to apply to have Concord Center and West Concord as a designated cultural district.
Yeah.
And for that, you get on their map, you get these fancy signs, and you're eligible for this funding from the Mass Culture Council for activities within that area that boost economic vitality through the arts.
Yeah. Okay, that's good, thank you. But it doesn't sound like they're saying you have to have one event per month, you have to have at least this kind of thing or that kind of thing. It's not a regulation, or in order to get approval, you have to go through, it's all about, unless.
You have to have a program.
It's more complicated. If it was just like you have to do an event a month that might be eligible, it's sort of like, you need a committee that looks like this, you have to have a work plan that looks like this, you have to have these many people participating.
Yeah.
Well, you have to have metrics, reporting. And it's all stuff that they've been doing, but they're just amping everything up.
Yeah, got it. And so the question is, for what benefit?
And ultimately, if they're saying, because we want your community to be more effective and achieve the goals that you're wanting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Some communities need that because they're at a lower level. Concord is a little bit more established in its operations and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
is there additional benefit that we receive besides the cash compensation?
But I assume we are on their website and in certain areas defined, so that people are from Paris looking at Massachusetts, the cultural, we're there, we wouldn't be there if we didn't correspond, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think from, I would assume Beth's standpoint, you might lose some exposure if you didn't cooperate.
I'm not sure how,
Yeah.
I don't. think
Honestly,
that's-
the designation isn't what like having a sign or having a logo, that doesn't drive. It's the programming that those districts have in the past done that get the traction, that attract an audience, that make us known for.
And my 2 cents is, I would prefer, it's just me, I would prefer that if we do some kind of panel or some kind of forum in the spring, it would be around the question, given that we have the cultural community, we have the business community, we have all these council, and we have the economic vitality committee, and we have the partnership, and we have the Chamber of Commerce, are we organized effectively to really promote economic vitality with sort of capital E's, including cultural, or not? And how should we be organized with all of this, to better ensure that we can drive economic vitality in the community, both traditional business and cultural? That I think, for me, and if it turns out that this Mass Cultural Council is and people think it's a really good thing, that's fine, we can just do it. But I'd rather work on trying to integrate the cultural community with the business community in terms of the way we're organized. Because, as I said before, we got the partnership, we got the chamber, we got these cultural councils, you got these big cultural institutions in town. So that's just. I don't wanna sort of drive the ship. Well, that generated a lot.
well, if I can just share that in the case of Arlington's district, which has been pretty successful, and like I said, it's been sort of running itself for years and has been consistently funded. What they did was the town meeting created a town commission that was intended to bring together the herd of cats of several formerly separate entities in town with separate budgets that had to be handled, separately under one umbrella. The Commission for Arts and Culture, and it in its charter ensured representation of members of the business community by way of the chamber, the libraries, the local community of artists, a representative of one of the large nonprofits in town, Arlington Center for the Arts. The school committee is represented on it, and several at-large roles that were appointed by by the town manager. And it brought in public art, the festivals and celebrations, the Poet Laureate Committee, the managing partnership for the cultural district, the local cultural council, and brought them all under one umbrella with permanent liaison to the Department of Planning and Community Development, for the purposes of promoting tourism and economic development for the businesses. And it has been very effective at making sure that a wide range of stakeholders in town are all sort of behind the value of understanding the value of arts and culture to economic prosperity in town, as well as the quality of life in our neighborhoods. And the cultural district, what it did was really put a lens that allowed the business community and the nonprofit community and the education community and the municipal planning community all sort of pointed in one direction, with a budget, a small budget, to support activity that was collaborative among all those different aspects of town life. That's one way that we could go here, right? In Concord, we still have the herd of cats, everybody doing their own siloed thing. In a sense, I mean, just from my perspective as at the umbrella, I mean, we've been really looking to someone to revitalize the Concord Center Cultural District in a way that would be beneficial from our view in creating collaborative opportunities with other businesses, with other nonprofits, and for our artists. And, you know, so we could collaborate with restaurants and hotels. And really, we've been looking for an entity that would drive that kind of activity. Beth has a staff role that does a lot of that for us, but she's just one person.
Other comments?
Can I just say,
Sure.
Stuart, that was very helpful for me to hear. I think that getting businesses together and learning the second part of what you just said, the second part of your statements there about learning more about how businesses would like the arts and culture to help promote business and coordination and cooperation among each other. I think that's a really useful conversation to have. So coming from the perspective of the umbrella, I'd like to hear more from the other organizations so that we know what they want from the town. But I have to say that the model that you told us about in Arlington, I don't realistically see that happening here in Concord for several reasons. Number one, it would require a reorganization of our town, and that's a huge effort. And then it would also require some incremental funding, which I don't know if you're aware of this, but you know, we're under severe pressure now to actually stay within a very tight budget. So my feeling, and just my feeling, would be that, you know, finding out how the arts and culture can help businesses like you and, you know, cultural centers like you to become more successful within town. I think that's a really useful conversation for a forum, if that's what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
I would just add that, I mean, we did this through an arts and culture plan that was created by the MAPC for us, and we had TAP grant funding.
Okay.
So, you know, to get their assistance. And in fact, MAPC just had its annual meeting here, let's say 2 weeks ago, and the whole presentation was on how municipalities are using arts and culture for economic development. And that was the theme of their annual gathering this year. The TAP cycle is open right now, and that could be a source of, you know, expertise and resources that Concord might be able to get, you know, through that grant.
Yep. Good to know.
the organizing model I have in my head is trying to, Mary, you can help here too, is parallel to what we did in housing.
Yeah,
That's, that we've got four or five groups in town who worry about affordable housing. And we have a housing trust. And what we do is all of those groups, plus somebody from the select board and somebody from the finance committee meet periodically. To talk about what each of us is doing and how we can reinforce one another. That's the model I have for the way we would organize a Canada. That's it. Cultural community, business community, the partnership, the chamber. What are you doing? How can we coordinate? How can we help? And seeing this committee as the good umbrella under which we can pull everybody in. So that's how I come to that perspective.
so yeah, the benefit of that would be it would be a conversation.
Yeah.
Right, among all these groups. And the bigger question I think that we're struggling with now is, do we reorganize some of the committees? Do we reorganize some of the, do we need to get more money because we might be losing money from the Mass Cultural Council? Things like that. I don't,
Well, those might be outcomes of getting this group together.
Yeah.
okay.
We're missing this block over here.
Right.
We've got to do something over here. And I don't know what the answers are gonna be, but the hope would be
I don't either.
when all of these groups to get together, somebody's gonna go, what?
Yeah.
Why are we
Yeah,
Yeah, why don't we work?
Why are we
together
doing
on
this?
these
I
things?
don't know. But that to me would be a useful conversation. I agree with you completely. Arlington taking it to town meeting and being overhaul the town structure, I think, I don't wanna go anywhere near that. That sounds like just too big an enchilada for us to deal with.
what type of time frame are they talking for conformity here?
Traditionally, the contracting period for the new grants is December, and then we receive the funds in January. So,
Oh, wow. Well,
like
that's
bas-
tough.
yeah, so it's not quite clear
They
how
can't
realistically
they
expect
can't make
those to
these
happen.
new regulations operative for
Through a certain days.
We're supposed to hear in the next couple days if they've changed their tune. And how much they're expecting to transform for that quickly. They're definitely, no matter what, they're changing their regulations closer. They're gonna maybe make some changes, but I'm not expecting a wholesale
Yeah.
change. They are gonna be close to what the new cake version, of what their recipe they want people to follow.
But you would think they would, 6 months or a year for a town to conform, I mean, you can't turn on.
I mean, think of the poor towns who don't have folks like you and Beth, you know,
Yeah.
they'd have to
They're up a creek.
hire somebody and.
Yeah,
Funded.
there was a lot of distress among
Yeah.
the folks at the meeting Tuesday.
Okay, how are we gonna wrap this up?
Well, I think I think Mary's right about this forum, I think should just be about kind of the creative economy. And it makes me think of like our earlier forum was sort of like, what's commercial development anything we do for Concord? I think maybe just sort of like, what's the creative economy and cultural community do for economic vitality in Concord? It feels like that's a little thing. We had left it with the group before that Beth and I were gonna hash out sort of who's our audience, what are the metrics of success? So I think we could still kind of do that and come back. And maybe, you know, have a little bit more of a plan.
I'm a little,
Next meeting.
that's fine, I'm a little. I would hate to introduce some new language. We don't have any. We don't have that language in the way we're organized now, the creative economy,
Okay,
at least not to my knowledge anyway.
alright,
So
The
I-
MCC this year issued a pretty substantive report that it's sharing with municipalities on it's multi-year study of the economic impact of arts and culture on the state's economy that could be helpful, and they're freely giving it to municipalities, so we could request it from them.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily it's a foreign term, Mike. It's one that certain industries have been using for many, many years, but I think that's part of the forum is like, what do people know? Like, you know, how can we share? How can we, how can we assess what their desires are as a community and what do they understand about art and culture and economics together? And sharing some of that report might be useful too.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people in Concord understand how beneficial tourism is to our economy, really. I mean, we do, but I'm not sure a lot of people in town do. And maybe there's some data in this report that could also educate and impress people with how important arts and culture are to economic vitality. I mean, making that link and asking how we can strengthen that, and how we can improve business through arts, what ideas do people have? I think that would be worthwhile.
yeah,
And Stuart, you said there is a report an analysis of the impact of arts on the economic vitality of business, of communities.
Yeah, there's a number of different reports. Actually, I have a section on the town website about kind of the overlap of arts and culture and how it impacts. So it connects with, people going to restaurants, to
Yeah,
hotels, to retailers. That's really part of what drives all the visitors coming to Concord.
Right.
And some of it is for open space, but it's really about the arts and culture.
So what I'm here to say is moving toward the forum concept, that would be an event where we're looking at both arts and businesses in terms of what are you doing, what should we be doing as a community, and maybe layer in that forum a presentation about the summary of some of the key findings or key trends or whatever that look at that impact of arts and businesses on creating a vital, active community. Just doing something like it, then
Yeah, it feels a little bit like kind of, there's two things. There's, when I say creative economy, like there's that the umbrella is kind of its own organization where it's generating funds, it's raising money, like they're a business, they're an employer. But then you could also think of like the retailers and restaurants downtown.
right.
And there's that trying to create the synergy between the two of them, that they kind of need to work together. It's like, if there's good restaurants downtown, people are more likely to go from there and the tour show.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
part of what the role of the districts and part of what I sort of see what this forum can be, is like how to put this together.
Yeah, and it's really, I think, two things. One is ramping up the demand for that kind of a collaboration. And then also getting more information so that people go, oh, really? I didn't realize that. Yeah, maybe there is and that's all part of demand creation kind of concept. So I think so the forum really is a sharing experience as well as beginning to do with a focus, and it's not just a conversation. Thank you very much. I mean, have a nice day, but that could lead to some things that would be, that promote what we're really trying to do, the integration of various elements of the community.
so sort of what we want to do is want to re-envision economic vitality.
Yeah,
But by that, I simply mean, until recently, this committee had we had Jan, but really we had no focus on the cultural part of our community here.
I feel like Stuart's representing it.
No, that before,
Oh, okay.
right? And so, yes, we worked to get, we got somebody from the library or from
The museum.
museum.
yeah,
Okay, we got Stuart from
Yeah.
Umbrella, we got you
Yeah.
from Wright Tavern, and so I think we could have broadened our committee
yeah.
in terms of the way we see it.
Mm.
But I'm not sure that's beyond the committee anything.
Well, it's sort of our responsibility in our foundation to educate the town on the benefits of economic vitality and how one succeeds at that. And having the cultural people and the strictly what we'd say business economically, you know, storefronts and that, how they restaurants, the inn converge and discuss that is what we're talking about, aren't we? So the town would have some awareness and get on board with it if it needs some minor funding. I know, Mary, I didn't ask for funding, but but if it did, that there would be some, I'll use the word political will to do it. You know, because they understand the benefit. Other people put it together now. I really don't. The average citizen starts the car and goes to work and comes home. Goes to the fields and watches kids play. You know?
So you know, if you've been on commission, me, my mind works to structure, it just can't help it, right? So I can envision this panel discussion, there's some introductory kind of remarks about where the town is, blah, 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 economic activity. And then there are short presentations from the big buckets of economic vitality, and then the empowering questions is, how can we move forward to better facilitate a broader definition of economic vitality?
Yeah.
So we can hear from the culture.
It benefits everybody.
Community. So,
And they can hear from each other.
yeah, well, in the same room, so
Right.
hopefully,
Right.
and hopefully we get out of it some ideas that we can then get back to the various committees, remember, and, you know, make snowballs and start throwing.
Right.
And a model I've seen work a lot is that forum at the beginning and then bring people into smaller groups. To have some of that real discussion, so you get more voices and they come back together and share what was concluded in those conversations. So it's a way of capturing both of those. And
Well, but that's a different, that's a good idea,
Yeah.
but that kind of an audience, you would invite our committee, you would invite folks from the cultural community. And that wouldn't be a forum for the town, it would be a forum
Right.
for us.
right,
And we would have some presentations, Yakety Yak, this is what we do, and then your ideas.
yeah.
You know, everybody over there, figure out this over there.
Depends on how many people show up, you know, how they come to the thing.
Well, that could be a fairly defined,
Small group, you don't need to break it in small groups, but if it's a large, if you have 20 or 30 people, you know. Most people will be listening, we need to find some chances, opportunity for people to answer the question that you posed, which is how do we do this? Then that leads to things as outcomes, where there's structural things, maybe there's just forming something, a number of different directions it could go.
Mhm. Well, those are two very different ideas for a panel discussion, I think, they're both kind of interesting. And I could even envision, if we took Tom's approach, out of that might come fodder for a larger discussion
Mhm.
with, you know, open to the general public.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think at first, what is my guts, is you want interested parties. And people have a stake in the outcome, in the discussion. And then the next round may be, as you're saying, more open to the public who are of interest and have made opinions and made experiences. And it's always helpful to its perspective, but there's the first part of it, which is really people who have a community of interest, I think, but, good reaction.
I see it completely the other way around.
Okay,
I see that, I'm always that way.
good,
No, I see it from the standpoint of, I wanna know if there's somebody sitting on Elm Street or Hubbard Street or somewhere else who comes to a thing they hear and suddenly gets involved and wants to work at it, and we get more parties. Not have people talk to themselves that are already in the workings of it. And then from that, you could, your idea of setting up a wheel type thing and talking about it and bringing ideas back, but going to the public and saying, we need to educate the broad public and get them involved in asking questions. I think last year's meeting had a bunch of folks came there, who would have not been at this sort of meeting you're talking about, who asked a bunch of questions and got kind of interested in it. And so the first kind of kickoff, if we don't believe the public is aware of the benefit of the economy of Concord
Right.
and that's the cultural folks and everybody. Then isn't that the target? We gotta see if we can just get some, peel back some,
That's good, that's good.
I mean, that's how I think about it, but either way, I think
Yeah.
is plausible.
Yeah, guys, you can know what our goals are, because it'll look slightly different, focus to it.
I see it as kind of a kickoff
Yeah,
type
good thing.
thing to motivate,
Right, yeah,
then, you know,
Okay,
all right.
I'm not gonna
Stay in
vote.
shape.
we had nothing to vote.
I didn't want you to say, well, let's vote on this.
I'm a little bit at sea with, how we get this, cause I'm gonna try something, so you stuck your hand up, I didn't think
You
you.
did,
And
yeah,
Tom and Beth. So we've got two competing ideas here. If I could choose three, if you need a fourth, yeah, we'll find somebody.
yeah, Stuart's good.
Stuart, okay, Stuart, you're the fourth, we could get you four to wrestle us to the ground for us, I don't think
Yeah.
the committee can do it. But if you could come up with, well, if we did your version, this is what it would look like, how we would organize, what would be the goals? Organize your methodology, how would we organize, what would be the goals?
Yeah,
That would come, and then we can vote.
and just so I'm clear, in terms of what we're heading toward is hosting a forum. The question is, what happens during that time?
Your forum brings all of the representatives from all of the principals together, all the cultural groups, the business community all together. And we have that conversation. Greg's is we get representation, but they're more of a panel discussion, telling what they do. And then we talk about how we can do things together kind of stuff, right? I think both of those are good. Good
Either
idea.
one.
I think
Yeah,
both of them will help.
It's good, yeah, cool.
Stuart, Beth, you guys on board here?
If Beth can help set it up.
Of course.
Thumbs up?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is Beth.
Sure. Quickly, Ken Burns started Sunday night. I know most Concordian, most history nerds are watching it all over the world. We do have a commercial that's running during it. So the last two nights it has been at the very first minute of the episode, which has been really, really great. It is an ad for Revolutionary Valley, which is our regional tourist council. It does tag Lexington and Concord and has images from us, and is paid for in part by our investment as a community. So we co-opted with WGBH and our friends in Lexington and with the Convention and Visitor Bureau. So that ad is running, and lots of people have seen it. And so turn in, check it. I believe Polly and Cindy on my staff both posted it on our social as well. And then this Friday we have WBZ coming to Concord. They are filming in 6 different locations to continue the story of Revolution 250 in the lead up to Massachusetts's big celebration this spring. So they are doing on camera with Joe Palumbo, Stephanie Cloutier, who's on my staff, and Jared from the National Park. They are filming at Harwell Tavern, Wright Tavern, Hill Burying Ground, the North Bridge, and at Barrett's Farm and Robin's House. So they'll be in town. It's just a one-person producer on Friday. So that's kind of exciting. We should get some really nice PR out of that in the next couple of months. And as we head into December, our hours are changing. So we'll be open weekdays 10 to 3 and weekends we stay open 9 to 4. And then we are going to close to the public January and February. But of course, I'm still there and we still have private and group tours all winter. And then National Park, everybody probably knows the government shutdown over. The national parks were able to reopen their parking lots. So those are open. The visitor centers and bathrooms remain closed as they would have been anyway, normally on October 31st. But we are happy that our friends at the national park are back at work, and looking forward to spring and all of that. Questions?
Other questions for Beth? That sounds like a lot, Beth.
It's enough.
Mimi?
Beth, I have one question for you.
No questions for you. No, sorry.
And it seems random because it's a way off, but do you participate in any way in the Hidden Treasures Festival for Freedom's Way in the spring with any programming?
We haven't, well, actually, that's not true. I did a couple of years ago do some programming with them, but I haven't done them this year. We're seeing a lot of sort of bubbling up of different programs. We did just get a Mott grant. Mimi got a Mott grant for Black History Markers, which is really exciting for us. So there's a lot of continuing programming that might be able to tap into the Hidden Treasures programs from Freedom's Way. Always, they're a great partner. So,
and they'll reimburse you, like if you want to offer a free tour or something at Mann Park. So
yeah, we have had sponsorship with them in the past.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mimi.
All right, Jingle and Mingle in Concord Center is coming up on Saturday, December 6th. The Right Tavern is sort of the centerpiece, where we'll have a couple bands. We're gonna have a gift wrapping station for folks bring their presents, and we'll wrap them for a donation to support local causes. There's a whole bunch of existing things already happening, from the craft market at the Umbrella, the book sale at the library, the holiday house tour from the museum. There's gonna be looking at the gingerbread houses at the Colonial Inn, an open house at 1780 House, a whole bunch of stuff. So we're kind of bundling all those things together to promote it. And then the tree lighting is the following day here in Concord Center.
What are the hours?
Jingle and Mingle's from 10 to 2. And then the tree lighting, I believe, starts at 4. You'll have to double check the town website. It's got all
I
the
think it's
details on
5
that.
to 8.
5 to 8.
I think.
We already mentioned the kind of the cultural districts, and Beth just mentioned, we were awarded $14,000 from the Office of Travel and Tourism for a set of Black Heritage historical signs. So that's going to be going before the select board for provisional approval and to kind of receive that grant, and that's something we'll be working on over the next probably 9 months or so. And then kind of continuing on with like donations for benches and public amenities. We've got some new businesses that have just opened. A nail salon just opened at Concord Center. There's been a bunch of interest on some properties in West Concord. So those kind of things continue on in the background. Beth and I are both working on kind of doing nice annual reports to kind of look at the metrics of economic vitality from our particular perspectives. So the plan is to have those, at least I'm gonna be planning on looking at January. I suspect Beth will probably be sometime around then, to kind of, the idea is to kind of present it in kind of graphical format and be able to kind of see trends over time, and start kind of setting up those kind of, I've been sort of doing it in a written form the last couple of years, but kind of beefing it up and doing it a little more dynamically for this year. So that's something in the works.
Take any questions from Mimi?
Same. I found the flyer for the holiday stuff. So Jingle and Mingle, December 6th, 10 to 2. Annual tree lighting, December 7th, 3 to 6. West Concord Holiday Stroll, December 13th, noon to 5. And the Hanukkah celebration, Wednesday the 17th, 5 to 6.
Thank you.
Got it.
Okay. Public comment. Okay, no public comment. Date for our next meeting. I'm going to propose something a little different. The 17th, but we had the practice of meeting alternately at 4:30 there now and 8:30 in the morning. And I'm going to propose a meeting at 8:30 in the morning on the 17th.
We would not be able to use this room because that's the chair's breakfast.
The chair's breakfast, yeah, well, we'll be over, we'll see if we can
Along
nail
Hydra.
one Ties Road. So, is there any objection to that, I didn't mean it to sound like a done deal, but,
Yes, you did.
well, I know, but.
So
I
we're saying
can't be there, but if I'm the only one, you'll still have a quorum.
You're proposing 8:30 AM?
Yeah,
As long as it's still on Zoom.
yes.
Okay.
Just don't wear your jammies, that's. Okay, so, that will be the 17th, at 8:30 in the morning, and we'll send out a note to everybody as soon as we've nailed down, where we can have this. And, given that it's around the holiday season, if it turns out that Beth and Mimi have something important to tell us, we'll get them on the agenda, but otherwise, I'm gonna suggest that we deal with the panel discussion as our primary,
Yeah, yeah.
because if we wanna get that going, we've gotta get dates, we got a lot of work to do if we're gonna pull that off. And I'll be able to report back on the beer garden, whether we're gonna try to get it nailed down or try to push it to the potential fall annual meeting. Right,
Did you say fall annual meeting?
fall special meeting, there's gonna be a next fall, very likely there's gonna be a special town meeting. And we would piggyback onto that with our zoning. Rather than have to wait till. And. If we're done, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to it.
And a second. See, no objections, all those in favor, aye, and before we say goodbye, I hope everybody hasn't.
Jump in.
Here,
Yes.
we'll see you all next month.
Yeah.
Thank you.